Today's video is all about Echelon Prime, powering parallel TCG and beyond with Prime. Today we're going to be doing a deep dive into this project, looking into the team, the tokenomics, the utility, and the overall value proposition, figuring out whether this project has what it takes to make it to our portfolio for the continuation of this bull run. So you know what, let's talk about the news, let's analyze the charts, and let's strategize to capitalize. Welcome to the channel. My name is Mike, and let's get right into it, guys. If you're new to the channel, welcome. On the channel, we talk about cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, Ethereum, and all the altcoins, looking for opportunities. Whether we go up or down, bearish or bullish, it doesn't matter. All we want to do is stay one step ahead of the market. And the question is Echelon Prime an opportunity? Guys, are we going to see Echelon Prime, lead the way for this gaming narrative for the bull run? Is it very possible that we see, some of the bullish concepts that are definitely surrounding Echelon, show us the strength that we need? It's very possible, guys. Here we're going to be talking about the good, the bad, and the ugly. We're going to be very critical on what the team is trying to give us here for a bull run opportunity. We'll take a look at some of the metrics and some of the details, of course, looking into some of the tokenomics, the utility, the overall value proposition. We got to get fundamentally bullish, guys. And as we expect more capital to enter the crypto space, obviously elevating that market cap to the next level, we have to basically ensure that the retail market has all the information they need to get bullish, right? That is something that a lot of these teams need to focus on. Give us everything we need when we start doing the research, when we go on the website, when we read the white papers. We need all the little details to say yes, check, everything checks out, I want in. And that's basically what we're going to be focusing on today. And we're going to be using the website and the main documentation that is provided by the team to ensure that they do have this information. Okay, guys, so we want clarity, we want organization, we want factual information readily available to anybody that is interested in Echelon Prime. All right, guys, let's begin. Let's see what's going on here. Obviously, we're going to use the website as our main platform just to get introduced to what's going on, what the project is all about. It's a foundation, as can be seen, powering parallel TCG. At this point, we're going to look into what that means, but it's a game. Of course, it's a game that is released and is basically hosted on the Echelon Prime ecosystem, and it is called Parallel. There's some news if you want to know a little bit about it. It's a trading card. It's a game based on cards. You're collecting cards, and the game basically its value is based on your ability to collect these cards, and each card has its own value proposition within the game itself, right? So that's something to understand. You're collecting cards, and one thing that comes to my mind, of course, is NFTs, non-fungible tokens, in-game assets, and all of that, and definitely in line with what cryptocurrency has to offer. Let's continue going down. Echelon is a platform that enables games to leverage blockchain features. So Echelon is a platform that's key, because it seems to me like really it's beyond just being a studio, right? It's a platform, a launch pad, let's say, or a launching platform where it's different let's say studios can go and launch their own token, their own game, and obviously have tokens, the Echelon token be its utility token, which is important here. So it almost takes the studio to the next level in a way, because studios can definitely be part of this ecosystem, the Echelon ecosystem. We are advancing Web3 gaming with frictionless and compelling Prime token utility that enhances game experience. Parallel TCG is just the beginning, so it's their first game. Build with us and take your game to the next level. So gaming studios can come in here and deploy their game, and of course use Parallel TCG. Use the Prime token as their in-game currency and currency that will drive the ecosystem. So that's interesting. What else do we got here? And that concludes the website. It's just a little launch pad here for as far as the website goes. There's the games. We can take a look at that. They have a Discord. Feel free to check that out. They have governance. They have caching. We'll talk about what caching means. in a second as we go through what the project is all about. There's a lot of little intricacies here in language that definitely needs to be ironed out for you to be comfortable here. I feel that sometimes when projects take on their own language, as far as describing different things, like the caching, for example, or the syncs that they use, we'll talk about all of this, but it could get a bit confusing, so we got to make sure that we understand the language. Ecosystem, this is important. What do they got going on here for the ecosystem? Obviously there's other aspects that we got to go into, but if you see here, if you do go the Echelon Prime Foundation, right, you start to get into its ecosystem and what it's all about. So you can see that really what it's all about. They got partners, which is the Parallel, which in this case it's the studio itself that is being deploying this game, the card game. And then you have affiliates, Wiki Prime Wiki, Defined, Priming, and you can see Parallel Deck, a lot of things having to do, and these are affiliates and communities that they've basically are working with. So not so much partnerships, I would say not even that much of an ecosystem really, because when I'm thinking ecosystem, I'm seeing a bunch of games. I'm not seeing that right here. I've seen some affiliates and some community relationships, but of course, we're talking about the beginning phases of Echelon Prime, so maybe this is right in line with their age and so on, their growth. There's a little bit of more that could be offered here with regards to ecosystem. It seems a little bit at the beginning phases, let's put it that way. That's the ecosystem, and if we continue going on, we start to look at its white papers or its documentation, which is not too bad, to be honest. Documentation is pretty good. They got a Git book, which I appreciate, better than PDFs and all of that. A nice interactive place to basically keep the general public up to speed with what's happening. Echelon ecosystem and Prime Parallel TCG. Okay, so let's look at what Parallel is. It's a game, okay, and you can watch this video to see exactly what it's all about. Different characteristics of the game, but what we really want to know is perhaps where we going with this, right? There's a Parallel Colony, which is another game that is in the works. It's currently in deployment, so or actively in development. So this is something that we could look forward to in the immediate short term, that it's going to be released. It's an AI avatar to navigate mining colony, and so on. And so each avatar has its own wallet and being able to interact on the blockchain as an AI avatar. Pretty interesting, right? We're seeing a lot of this autonomous AI narrative pick up a little bit, and to see Prime getting involved in this is good, but it's still in the works, it's still in development. This is obviously going to improve its ecosystem as we see more in-depth application of different technologies, but also more games being deployed on the ecosystem itself. Okay, so that's something to understand. Now if we keep on going forward, we have the token. Guys, I'm going to be honest, the tokenomics here, they're pretty much all here. Everything that you kind of need is here to understand what's going on with tokenomics and the metrics, but it's a little bit scattered everywhere. So you got to bear with me here, because even myself, I had to kind of jump around page to page and so on. And they do a good job giving links, but sometimes it's just too much to have to bounce around. So if you look at the token distribution, and I know we're jumping right into the tokenomics, but that's how it's presented here on the white paper or on the Git book, so might as well just jump right into that. Total supply, you can see it's 111 million units and much and more, right? So 111 multiple ones here. Okay, so pretty interesting. That's the total supply, and that's the max supply, so that's great. And if you look at, there's different allocations, basically accounts that are going to be allocated these tokens. So we have 31% for the gameplay pool. Okay, so you can see right away the majority of it is being applied to rewards for gameplay. And then you have the Parallel Studios reserve, which is approximately 20%, so 19.7%. And what's interesting to me here, and what's a little bit concerning to me here, is that this reserve is in total control of the studio itself. Okay, so this is what we have to understand. When we know this, when we know that the studio or a particular identity is in full control of this wallet or this amount of capital, which is, quite a bit of the liquidity here, it's a 19.7% and the rewards are 31, the ratio is pretty high. We have to understand that we need a vesting schedule. We got to make sure that these tokens are not going to hit the market all at once and dilute. So we'll take a look at that in a second. But as of now, just keep in mind, that's quite a bit. And And if you go down to the Parallel Studio investors and you start looking at, okay, this is another, a group of individuals that got in early, that are early stakeholders, and obviously are going to get rewarded for being those people to take early risk. And they're going to be getting 16.2% of the tokens, which also is quite a bit. If you think about it, it's quite a bit. So we got to make sure that also these individuals that are that have gotten in at a very good price are also not going to dump on the market. And the only way to really ensure of that is to ensure that we have a good vesting schedule where tokens get distributed and unlocked to these individuals over a period of time. So gradual release. That way there's no dilution in the price and not affecting the price for those individuals that are holding, right? Early, like you and I at this point, buying in, accumulating, and making sure that the price doesn't get diluted. So this is something to consider, but we have to take a look at the vesting schedule to give us a bit of clarity. Now, it would have been nice to have the vesting schedule right here so we can compare and have that information readily available here. Now, caching, another scenario, 14.1% is going to be directed to caching. I believe that all of this is already in circulation, and we'll talk about what caching is in a second. Again, vocabulary is important, but caching, based on its definition, just quickly, is the ability to kind of like store your assets. So store your in-game assets, and for storing them away in the cache, as caching, you will get rewarded. So interesting concept there. Echelon Foundation Reserve, again, so there is a governance part of this. So now I'm not sure if it's totally classified as a DAO, but it's definitely a governing body there, and based on its definition, a DAO basically allows individuals to vote based on their token holdings. If they hold a certain amount, they're able to place in votes and proposals. And as a decentralized autonomous organization, you basically distribute the decision making and how capital or liquidity gets deployed, and some critical decision making going forward for the future of Prime. So this is interesting. 11% goes towards the foundation. Now, what's interesting to me also is that could have the studio also been under the foundation, or have its own foundation as well. In this case, we're seeing that there's a lot of the tokens being allocated to early stakeholders, and for me this is a bit of concern. But again, we got to watch out for that vesting schedule. Prime events, early airdrops and so on and so forth, only 7%. And we have to understand that that is also a cause of dilution if those individuals end up, releasing on the market. Now, again, you can see that really, if you look at the rest of all of this, you got 14% for rewards, for caching rewards and gameplay pool, which accumulate to a good amount, but still nothing more, like it's not above 50%. I would like to see rewards usually be a lot more above the 50% mark, giving the opportunity for holders to have a lot more of the tokens rather than early stakeholders. So for me, that's a little bit of an issue. But again, no tokenomics is perfect. I just not very confident in the fact that it is well balanced. It should have been a little bit more balanced and more leaning towards rewards for everyday individuals. That makes it decentralized. That makes it less risky. And of course, as a retail investor, that's really what you want to do, is get into a scenario where the risk and the reward is definitely in your favor. So this is something that is a bit concerning. But before we continue, let's continue going on talking about tokenomics in a second, because we have the gameplay in Parallel TCG. You can see the Parallel TCG is a game, and of course, Prime, you earn Prime by winning ranked games, and basically you win, you get rewarded, right? You own particular cards for the game. You're a better player, more equipped to win, and you're going to get more out of your gameplay. So basically, emissions per day is capped to about 5. Capped Prime emissions per day is set to 5 wins. So you get 5 wins per day. Now, if you own a core, so basically the core grants 1 additional Prime per play. So we'll talk about what cores are in a second. Of course, that's an in-game asset of some sort. Okay, so if you own this asset, you're going to be able to qualify for an extra win, which gives you 6 instead of just 5, or capped at 5. something interesting, right? So and you can see over time relationship of NFT cards to Prime rewards emission. So the more cards you own as NFTs, you will have a greater likelihood of earning rewards. And of course, you got to buy these cards, right? They're not free, and you got to invest into the ecosystem in order to become a better rewarded, essentially. So very typical scenario, very typical. So let's keep on going now. Now the sync distribution. Now syncs is basically, and again, another vocabulary that we have to get accustomed to is basically where Prime can be spent. And obviously, and it comes in many categories. Like within the sync schedule, there is gameplay pool, sync creator in parallel, Echelon Foundation Reserve. These are how tokens are going to be distributed, Prime Dives, and Parasets. Okay, so these are all different vocabularies, different categories. So some or all of its distribution to sync schedule. So you'll see that when the Prime is spent in Prime Sync, so whenever you basically spend Prime in Prime Syncs, some or all of its distribution will be sent to the schedule, or basically adhere to the schedule. And you can see that we have 100% at present, and a bit by bit, we get the majority of them sent to the game pool, some to Echelon, and that's the foundation. And we have the cash Prime drives and the cached basically a Paraset. So if you cash up your in-game assets, you're going to get rewarded. Almost like staking. If you think about it, you're putting it away, you're hodling, you're putting it away in the cache, and you'll get rewarded for not putting them on the open market. And they're not as liquid in that case, right? So literally, it's almost like you putting in a savings account or staking it up. So here below is the breakdown of the sync schedule. Notice after 36 months, starting July 23, the percentage of Parasets decreases and the percentage goes to gameplay pool increase. So improving the reward structure for gameplay users, which is important. So as you can see, the more tokens you have, 100 Prime, 100% of it, little by little, the gameplay pool gets a little bit more of it. So that's good. That's ultimately the rewards go to greater towards the gameplay pool. This is something that you kind of want to see. So think of syncs as how individuals are going to earn, right? So the earning goes, majority of it clearly goes towards gameplay pool. Okay, so that's good. Now, if we go back to the token, these are, remember, the sync distribution and I wish this was a bit faster. Here we go. You have the gameplay pool, right? This is where we get all the emissions for gameplay. And then, of course, if you look at the sync distribution, you can see how you have the gameplay pool still represents quite a bit of the earnings of how we earn. Okay, so that's important. And then the syncs, a little bit more about the syncs. Prime Syncs token gated products and services and experiences are available for Prime are called syncs. So again, that's the definition. Any product or service or any experience that is basically governed by the token is called a sync. And several syncs exist in the game, of course. Terminals and artographs are cosmetic. What's important to understand about cosmetic assets within a game, and I've seen many games do this, is that you own the asset, but the asset itself doesn't improve your ability to win. It just makes it look good. It makes your game look better. It could be a skin, it could be even a weapon of some sort, or an in-game asset that doesn't improve your ability to be better at the game. And then others like payload and Echios are critical for achieving scale. So in this case, those assets improve your winning capabilities, improve your gaming experience so that you can win a lot more. And of course, your win rate is directly related to how many primes you earn. So this is really important. Syncs lock up circulating supply, refilling the gameplay pool, and reward stakeholders through sync distributions. So again, these assets and the products and services and experience available for Prime are called syncs. Interesting. I guess the vocabulary could be a little bit out there. And of course, if you go back and you look at the sync distribution, again, back to what we looked at, they provide good links so that you can go back and forth. But again, this is what you get. If you own assets, this is what you get through your distribution, your sync distribution. Upcoming syncs, there are some already, of course, the cards and then this and that. We got a lot going on, but you can see that there's card lending. So if you have a good card and you want to lend it to somebody, you could earn. And I guess TBD and bonds. Again, there's other ways of earning and seeing rewards. Physical cards, you can actually get the tangible cards, and this is obviously bringing the the tangible into the virtual, which okay, is not bad of a scenario either, no doubt. So interesting, right? Just a card game governed by blockchain technology, integrating or bringing back this concept of NFTs and bringing NFTs to the forefront of blockchain technology, because again, JPEGs were just proof of concept. It wasn't like it was like the end game for NFTs. Now that we know NFTs have a lot more value than just JPEGs, we can start to see that there's a lot more possibility. Okay, so governance. It is backed by a DAO, a governance meaning a decentralized autonomous organization. If you want to vote or even propose anything, you basically have the ability to get involved into that, and if that's what you're interested in. And you can see that there's certain requirements. You can make proposals on different categories and so on and so forth. So we decentralize a little bit the organization, and some of the funds, I think it's about 11 to 12% goes towards this foundation or this governance, and that capital can be used and voted upon on how it's being spent. Interesting. And again, for one prime, you get one vote. Quorum for community votes is 11%. So a lot more details on how you can get involved. If you're interested in, I would say join their Discord, read through this a little bit more. But to know that there's governance there and allocated, is there a bit of capital allocated? Yes, there is. So that's pretty good. Missionaries, bulletins, there's a lot happening here. Elections, again, a lot more to do with the governance. I'm not going to get into too much of that, guys. It's the details that goes far and beyond in my case, from a deep dive perspective, but still great. Now there's grants, applications. You can get funding if you're a builder and you want to get funded. Obviously, they're trying to improve their ecosystem growth, and a lot of layer ones or a lot of projects do that in order to improve their ecosystem growth. They need to help in builders, adopt and basically adapt into their ecosystem. So grants are the way it's done, and then the assets. Okay, so we're talking about TCG. Now, what I do notice is that this Git book kind of bounces back and forth from Parallel as a game and Echelon as a foundation. I feel like this needed to be a little bit organized in a little bit of a different way, because if their main concept is Parallel is a studio, why is it so intertwined into Echelon as ecosystem or as the environment, right? The overall marketplace, let's say, and that's where I see a little bit of a disconnect in its layout of this Git book. So it could be a bit confusing here, but nonetheless, we're going back now to the Parallel TCG game in-game assets. There are a few categories here. You have Masterpiece, Prime Key, Catalyst, Drive. You can see a lot of vocabulary that you really need to get familiar with while you're playing the games, right? So in order for you to really know what a masterpiece is, you really need to, start looking into it. You can see rewards, a 5% royalty, and so on. There's a lot of tokenomics here as far as reward structure. The Prime Key, again, Prime Keys were originally gifted to early supporters. These are all in full distribution. We talked about that earlier on about the distribution. We'll talk about the unlocks in a second as well, because again, that's very important, and that's a category that they talk about towards the end, so we'll get into that. But you can see a lot happening here. To the total supply of these keys is 1,500. Their benefits are as follows: grant 6 additional slots for keys in Parallel. So the only way you're going to really know what all of this is, you got to play the game, really, right? But you can see that there's a good amount of info, at least to get you started here. Again, Catalyst, again, the total supply 150, Prime Drive, and there's a lot here, guys. There's a lot. If you're interested in the game and its details and what these are all about and the type of assets you can collect to get successful and ultimately earn more rewards, this is where you got to get into, right? Get into these details, Galaxy Key, and so on. So much happening. Now, talk about token distribution. More back into the tokenomics. You can see how everything kind of bounces around here. It's just a little bit all over the place, but we'll do our best. Prime launched in July 2022, which is great. At least they gave us this information when TGE was, because a lot of projects don't do that, and it becomes very unclear as to where we can start the vesting schedule and so on. As non-transferable token, it was unlocked via community vote. Again, the DAO, this is great. So there's not one person that just voting waiting on this to happen. On March 1st, 2023, three sources contributed to the initial distribution. Prime events, again, we'll talk about that. The caching, rewards for cash parallels, TGE cards, and assets. This was unlocked, and further unlocks to come. We'll talk about that in a second. So let's talk about Prime events and see what kind of tokens are actually released early on. You can see that only 7 out of all of these, this is approximately, if I'm not mistaken, it's about 10 million tokens, 7.9 was claimed. The rest of them were basically reallocated back to the pools, the original pools, so the gameplay pool and to the Echelon Foundation Reserve. So 7.9 million is already out there in circulation, and these were unlocked in very, very early on, beginning February 13th, 2022, 3%, 1%, and you can see these are early supplies of some of these of these cards. Okay, something to consider. So caching, again, caching distributed 15.7 million Prime over 1 year. So between July 18th to July 17th, so about a year, pretty much, almost day to day, perfectly. You can see that this was these are in distribution, so they're already out there. This is something to understand. So it's actually healthy because you don't risk dilution as far as the caching for these individuals' assets. These assets are already in the marketplace. We'll take a look at the marketplace in a second. Now, then the more important thing, and like I mentioned before, we got to worry about the unlocks, because Parallel Studios Reserves has a 19.7% of the tokens, okay, of the overall token distribution, and Parallel Studios and investors have 16.2. Remember, that was a big chunk of these early investors or early stakeholders, right? And the Parallel Studios is basically they start the unlock schedule start in June 30th, 2025. So there is some time up until next summer, pretty much, to expect the unlocks. But think about the cycle of things. Okay, what we really have to understand is that if the bull run is going to peak right around this time, and things start to get unlocked, tokens start to get unlocked at that time, I think there's going to be a significant amount of sell pressure, especially once the market starts to look a bit frothy up there. Once Bitcoin hits its potential bullish price targets, the altcoin season, all that, all the market looks really, really, frothy and emotional and, euphoric. It could be this is where the unlocks begin. And this is what you have to understand, that the sell pressure could also begin from the Parallel Studios reserves, right? You can't blame them for want to, sell the top of the market. That's the reality. If it unlocks, they could sell as the unlock. It's very, very possible. So we have to understand that's still a possibility, regardless of what the Parallel Studio says that they promise not to sell. There's no, promises here. They get unlocked. They're fair game to get basically sold off. And that's what we have to be concerned with. And then Parallel Studios investors, early investors have been getting unlocked already from July 17th, 2023. So they've been getting tokens. And if you look at this, it's very clear, unlocked per month. These are how many tokens are going to be unlocked per month, beginning in June 30th, 2025, all the way up to 2027. So it's going to be a couple of years until, we get them fully unlocked. This is fine. But you have to understand, I would say that the majority of the unlocks are going to start coming on the downturn of the bull market, getting into a bear market. So it's not bad of a scenario. We just have to keep an eye on what's happening towards the beginning of the unlocks, because based on timing, it could be the top of the bull market where the Prime token could be at its peak, and it's a perfect time to actually take some profit, or these studios to maybe sell a little bit. The unlock schedule for this reserve was modified. Okay, originally started in 2023. Pause. Okay, so there was some voting happening to make that change. Parallel Studios investors, we can see that this from 2023 already began, and it's going to end in the top of the bull run. Okay, guys, this is the thing. Like, if we're scheduling what's going to be happening, this could end up being like the peak of the bull run. You can see as soon as this ends, this begins. Pretty much, right? Within a month period, more or less, you know what I mean? So what we have to really understand is that we're going to be getting unlocks from here, and then we're going to basically end these unlocks. But these unlocks are going to peak at the top of the bull run, which means that these studio investors could be most likely taking a lot of profit, because these investors, when we're talking about VCs, most likely venture capitalists, people that are early, they're in it for the gains. Yeah, I'm sure they love the game. I'm sure they love the team. I'm sure, of course, they're going to say that. that. But the reality is an investor's objective is to invest capital and make as much return as possible. That's the reality. So based on this timing, I don't trust the fact that these people are not going to dump on the market at the top of the bull run. So be prepared that Prime will take a big hit for the bear market. I've seen multiple bear markets, and I know for a fact that a lot of altcoins come down to the 886 retracement, deep 90% retracement, 95% retracements because of scenarios like this. Okay, so we got to be careful now in the immediate short term as we start peaking to the top of the bull run and we start seeing, the market look pretty good, the market cap rise. I don't think anybody that is bullish at this current moment, whether you're an investor or a reserve, the studio reserve, or anybody, is going to be selling at this current moment with anticipation of the rally, the bigger rally. But once we start to see greed and froth, guys, expect it's going to be right around this time, and expect the investors to take a bit of profit. Okay, so that's my take there. There's linear unlocks here on both these scenarios. Now I'm just going to quickly just show you what I mean, because it's important for to make this connection. Like I mentioned, some of these tokenomics are just a little bit everywhere. Let's see if I can get there real quick. We have the tokenomics masterpiece. I'm trying my best here. I think it might be here. Let's see, we got these scenarios, and then we have the masterpiece. These are the parallel assets, grants. Let's see, governance, we talked about already. That's good. And then the sinks. Remember, this is what I want to show you. So just remember the distribution. Okay, guys, we're going to see a little bit of this distribution taking effect, even the tokens right here. I wanted to show you that. Remember, this 19 and 16% is what we're talking about with unlocks. The rest of them are already pretty much unlocked, and this is going to be distributed via rewards, bit by bit over gameplay and so on. We talked about that already. So just keep in mind, what we're really focusing on is this right here, which represents, close to, 40%, a little under 40%, maybe about 35% of the tokens, being released based on that vesting schedule. Okay, so that's that. Let's move on. And then we got a couple of links, smart contracts. You can take a look at that. We have they're also on base on the they have contracts on base, which is good. An up and coming L1, L2, sorry. And we got Ethereum. Obviously, all the contracts. If you want to see every single thing, every sync that they have, the caching, everything is transparent. And this is what I appreciate. You have the contract transparent. Everything is transparent. If you want to look at where all these tokens are allocated, they're right here. And if you want to look at the base L2, of course, you can get into all of their their wallets and see what's going on as far as all the token distribution goes. So transparency is really, really good here. And of course, they got socials, Discord, Twitter, Medium, YouTube, Twitch, and so on. And what's pretty cool is they give you their older papers as well. If you want to look at their older papers as they're updated, you have a lot here to kind of refer back to the previous, to the past, which is sometimes a bit viable if you want to make do some analysis in its progress and so on. So we definitely got a good idea of what this project is all about. So just to recap, Echelon Prime is an ecosystem where different studios and gaming studios can come in and deploy games, Parallel being the first one. The Parallel TCG is a card game, and it offers NFTs as in-game assets, and if you own the assets, you get rewarded. And of course, like every other project, there's some funds that are allocated to making this project successful, which is backed or behind a DAO based on governance and so on. The community can get involved, which is great. Really good stuff. There's early investors that are going to get some token unlocks based on the schedule. So this is good stuff. We get an idea. Now, if you have any more questions, I really appreciated their frequently asked questions. This is definitely really good, FAQ style. You can get in here and get a lot of questions answered, things that may be a little bit ambiguous, but pretty good nonetheless. Okay, so what is cash? How do you earn cash? How do you which assets can be cash? What is caching? For example, caching is a process of depositing cashable assets such as parallel card cards into Echelon smart contracts in exchange for Prime, so getting rewarded for caching. So this is very cool. I kind of like this. Sometimes reading a white paper does leave a little bit of ambiguity, but when you have the, I'm sure the team has gotten tons of questions, and they're smart because they're able to put them all here so we can continue our research with and get some of that clarity. Pretty cool. All right, so let's move on. They do have a marketplace. I'm a bit concerned about the marketplace, given that we do see the assets, but it would have been pretty cool to see some graphics for each asset. You can see you can buy a soldier, a sacred siphoner, and so on. But graphics are always pretty cool. Like, it seems a little bit underdone or underrepresented, in my opinion. It could have been a lot better looking with a bit of graphics, so that would have been pretty cool. But you can see that there's a lot happening here with the marketplace. Cards, playable cards, base set. You can buy, I guess, a whole set that is to start off, and so on, which is good. And then you can see you can trade. Let's see how that goes. Sorry. Okay, they're maybe working on it. Collection. I would have to connect a wallet to see my collection. And then rewards. You can see there's different claim rewards acquired from participating in Echelon ecosystem. So there's a lot happening here. So pretty cool. I kind of like it. Now, if you want more information about the game, what I do like is that they have a wiki that tailored towards the game itself. Some videos right here, some news, learning pathways if you want to learn more about it. And I can imagine that there's a lot to learn, of course. Even a deep dive like this won't get into knowing the game particular, but what we have to understand is that what we're really more focusing on is Prime, not so much Parallel, because the focusing on Parallel in a way, yes, it's great because right now it's their champion game, but the real success of Echelon Prime, or Prime itself, is multiple games, not just Parallel. We want to see the ecosystem growth. So once you get into the ecosystem, you can see what they have is what is Echelon? Okay, fine, which is the ecosystem itself. Prime tokens, of course, the main currency that's going to drive the entire ecosystem. Then the sinks, which we talked about already, all the assets within the game that's earnable, and you can get token rewards from holding and interacting. And then caching, which is again, putting your assets into a reserve or into a spot where it's going to be staked up and getting rewarded for that, taking those assets out of circulation. Okay, that's from my understanding is how it's going to work. So it's pretty interesting. Now there are other things, rewards and podcasts and things that you can see that they got rewarded before for their efforts for the game, which is good. I obviously appreciate all of that. But again, this wiki is tailored towards the game itself. So interesting. They do talk about this wiki quite a bit if you want to learn more about the game. Now, their socials, right? We're going to jump right into their socials. Their socials are pretty decent. They got about 18,000 followers. Not bad, We have some good news. Wayfinder caching is now live. The caching thing, Prime caching for Wayfinder is now live. Please ensure you use the official accounts. Okay, we got some good updates. This is the final tweet in the thread. Okay, they got some good uplink presented by Uplink next week. You see, there's a lot of good info, but really, I'm not seeing any major collaborations or very strategic partnerships, and that is going to get me really bullish here. Okay, so although they got a couple of good things happening, events and so on, I'm not seeing anything here with regards to strategic partnerships, and I didn't see anything on their main website. Now I gotta roll back a second. I have no choice but to roll back a second, because the reality is there's some shortcomings here. The shortcomings, clearly, there's no roadmap whatsoever on the website or on the white papers or on the Git book. Unfortunately, there's nothing there as to where are they going with this. There's only one game, the colony game, that is clearly in development, but other than that, that's game development. That's a totally different story. I want to know what Prime is being up to. Like, are they looking to onboard other studios? Is there anything in the pipeline now? What could we use here as far as roadmap to get bullish on their next step? That's what I want to know, because that speculation, it helps speculation. It helps thinking about what the future may bring, right? So this is one of the issues. I had a chance to have a quick conversation with the team. And they weren't. There's no roadmap. And to extend that even further, the team is not doxed. The team is still is private. Nobody knows really who they are. You can get a hold of them. You can potentially, try to catch them on the Discord. I was able to catch a couple of them on the Discord right before they got into a meeting on the Discord. But then after that, I wasn't able to get a hold of them once again. So unfortunately, at least they were able to, interact with me a little bit. I think it was just based on timing. I was able to get a hold of them. But the Discord community is quite active, and it's pretty good. So you can get some of your answers, your questions answered, no doubt. But you can see that when you're in a stage like this where there's token distribution that is basically being allocated to a studio, and you don't know who's behind the studio, and you can see how doxed makes things a little bit better. You want to know where these individuals are coming from, what experience they have, and which companies they work for, and which relationships will actually help Echelon Prime to go to that next level. So being doxed, I get it. It has its benefits, it has its drawbacks. Even as a content creator myself, I understand all these concepts, but the difference is that they're asking for mass adoption. They're asking for individuals to get involved in their ecosystem, and getting to know who is behind the ecosystem, particularly that only 11% is backed by the DAO, the rest of it is up for the open market. We would like to know who's calling the shots behind all the rest of that capital, right? So this is one of the concerns of mine. Not being doxed in today's environment poses a lot of risk, no doubt. Okay, so this is where we're at, guys. That concludes the deep dive. There's a lot of information here, but there's still a little bit of ambiguity. As per usual, guys, I do release an infographic to wrap up a lot of what I've talked about here. So expect this to be distributed on the socials. We'll do a quick summary here. Ecosystem, they have the Parallel TCG, which we talked about the game. The Colony, Parallel Colony, is still in development, and their marketplace is there. I feel like it's underdeveloped. It might need a little bit more graphics to show the actual assets themselves, but that concludes their ecosystem. I wasn't able to see anything else anymore. Okay, so 7 out of 10 there, because at least they have a working game, and their marketplace looks pretty solid, and it's not bad. Okay, but you have to understand, it's still early. Utility, the marketplace currency, various categories to obtain rewards, the sinks, and the governance. Very really good utility, not too bad. Marketplaces and the currency, but ultimately a bit ambiguous, because again, maybe their documentation needs to be improved so it's a lot clearer to understand how sinks work and all of that kind of stuff. So and the vocabulary is a little bit hard to sink in, no pun intended, but nonetheless, still good utility. Roadmap, there is none provided. Unfortunate. That's a very unfortunate thing. I think whipping together, it doesn't have to be day by day to the exact hour, but at least give us an idea of what we could be expecting in the immediate short term. Where are the efforts being allocated in the next little while? That's more important to me than anything else. In fact, that's more important to me than the team, because the team, although they're not docs and there's no information on who they are and where they come from and their work experience and so on, as long as they're hitting targets and they have good vision and so on, that could compensate. But the reality is these back end requirements don't exist, which is, where's the team going and who is the team? This is problematic for me. Okay, so that's a bit of an issue. Socials, they're not bad. They got a decent amount of followers, right? 270x followers for the last 30 days. So basically, they're down 77%. So they've been coming down in comparison to the previous 30 days. Not a good look. I understand the market is not the hottest in the last little while, but they've been kind of chilling out in the last bit. And then if you look at their metrics, their socials are doing okay with growth. It's just that they're losing a little bit of that momentum. But if you look at big picture growth on their socials, is not bad at all. 342x posts, which is solid, guys, and pretty much breaking even from previous month, which is good. That's a lot of posts for a month. Okay, so they're very active. What I did notice on X is a lot of their posts are very repetitive, which is fine for X, and based on the X concept and how it's being used. Their feed is very active, no doubt. But it would be nice to see some partnerships that we can talk about, or some bullish news that would be take it over the top and something to yap about, basically. But still not bad. I appreciated a lot more that the Discord was active, and we'll talk about the Discord in a second. Tokenomics, not bad as well. Pretty good. Parallel Studio Reserve. Remember, these are the things that I had an issue with. We do have 19.7% control controlled by the studio, which again, it's backed behind, or basically controlled by a vesting schedule, which is provided and very clear. And parallel studio investors 16.2 issued to investor, again, all backed by the vesting schedule. But just keep in mind, based on the timing of the linear schedule, we could have a lot of sell pressure as we get to the top of the bull market based on that 2025 target. Okay, so just keep in mind, tokenomics are good, but we can't expect it to stay that high during when the market starts to look a bit frothy and weak and we start getting into that bear market. Take profits, guys. Relationships, look, the relationships are very young. I couldn't see anything that I'm really getting interested in. There's some affiliates, again, okay, fine, and some communities, and basement.fun, okay, that's something that I was able to get off their X, but still, I'm waiting to see exactly what kind of really good heavyweight relationships. So I'm only giving it 5 out of 10 here. It's not bad, but I want to see something that's going to get me, dang, they're working with this company, or they're working with that, or this studio's getting involved. That's really good. That would get me super, super bullish. Now, exchanges, very interesting. They're listed on Coinbase. So they have, Coinbase represents the majority of their volume, which is good. They're also listed on a lot of smaller exchanges like Gate and Bitmart, and of course they have the DEX, of course, and Bybit and so on. But of course we're talking about Coinbase. Coinbase, the only one that is missing here to give us 10 out of 10 is Binance, and the reality is, even still, 9 out of 10 is solid. Now this could be a scenario where you might say, well, I'm losing out on opportunity here because it's already listed on Coinbase, and we're not going to get the volume that we need going forward to increase the volume, essentially, because we already hit the top. We already hit there's no more area of really for improvement other than Binance. Okay, it could happen. And then sometimes I've noticed that Coinbase and Binance strategically don't list each other, the tokens. They try to make them exclusive to a certain degree until the project becomes too big, and then it doesn't matter, right? Demand outperforms the supply, and then people demand it on Binance, and Binance will make it happen, and Coinbase has no choice but to understand that. But reality is that this is very matured state with a lot of exchanges, a lot of liquidity available for trading, and another listing on Binance. Are you willing? That's probably not going to give you much of an opportunity, in my opinion. But still, this is good for trading. Lots of liquidity, guys. If you want to sell and take profit on the top of the bull run, you have a lot of places where to be able to get that liquidity to sell and take profit. That's very, very healthy, and basically less risk in that case for me, as long as these exchanges aren't also not selling at the top and selling their liquidity as well. So we got to keep that in mind. So not bad. Some of these individual components are pretty good. If we look at the price in the last little while, actually the price has been doing very, very well. The last time when I did this deep dive, or when I created the infographics, the price was right around that $7 mark, and it has been doing much, much better than that. It's actually right around the $9 level, if I'm not mistaken. But nonetheless, guys, we do see that the market cap is currently at about 331 million. Trading volume, it only represents 1% of the market cap, which is a little bit low for me. But generally speaking, the market has been a bit quiet. The reality, there's no volume anywhere, so it's not specific to Prime itself. It's the whole market is suffering from the lack of volume. But nonetheless, even though the volume is low, we're seeing the price slowly grind to the upside, which is good. We should start seeing volume increase in the next little while. The supply, current circulating supply, represents 42% of the total, which is good, because a good portion of them are already in circulation. We're just waiting for those vesting schedules to see unlocks and more rewards being issued to people that are involved in the game and the ecosystem. So that's great, and marketing dollars get deployed by the team, and so on and so forth. A max supply, we can see that it's fixed, very clear. That's the fixed supply. Fully diluted right now is at about $796 million. Okay, so fully diluted, the reality is it's still very small. It's still very small, and I think it might be slightly overvalued, maybe slightly overvalued, given that they only have one game, and there's a little bit of work to be done. But it's still one of the hottest projects out there, and even though it might be slightly overvalued, maybe the market is seeing it as an opportunity in speculation. Future value, obviously, future value does affect the current value, and if the future value is, let's say it's going to reach a $10 billion market cap, guys, fully diluted right here, this is still undervalued, even though it seems to be currently undervalued. Future undervalued means opportunity, right? So this is what we got to understand here right now, is some of the metrics could be giving us false signals, but if the future is very bright for Prime, we could definitely see this as an opportunity. Let's move on. Let's see my overall verdict, guys. My verdict is, quite interesting, quite clear as well. It's gaming narrative, guys. Definitely a gaming narrative in line with that studio kind of idea, but even more so, more of a launch pad or type of thing. It looks pretty good. Documentation regarding tokenomics could be clarified, guys. It's a little bit everywhere, bouncing around, different language, different pages, distribution all over the place. It would be nice to have it nice and clean and redone that way, so it's easy to understand and clearly described. Parallel Studios reserves and Parallel Studios investors are subject to linear unlock schedules, something that we need to be very clear about and watch in the next little while. Again, as we reach the top of the bull run, we have to know that a lot of tokens will be unlocked. Gameplay pool set at 5 wins. Core grants an additional Prime per day. So Prime follows to gameplay pool over time. So we're seeing that the tokenomics basically is heavily based on rewards. You have different syncs that basically qualify for rewards, which is good. But those syncs, including all that belongs to the gameplay pool, could be a little bit confusing based on this unique category naming conventions that they do have. We have to understand there's a learning curve here as well within the game, but also as an investor, you have to get into that learning curve of understanding what all these little intricate in-game assets are all about and the benefits that they offer to holders of these NFTs, right? There's different ones, like some of them are just based on cosmetic. You're not going to be rewarded, or you're not going to get improved in-game play other than visuals in cosmetics, right? So it's just collecting from that perspective. So these are things that we got to understand, and obviously more of a deep dive into the game itself. The parallel game itself might be viable, but I'm focusing on the Echelon Prime ecosystem, or its ecosystem in itself. Not many strategic partnerships, it's still out there, not much happening there. I don't see anything. If there was, I would have wished that the team made it very clear that there are some strategic partnerships. Is there something that I need to be bullish about? And if there is, they should be front and center, right in front in the website or in the white papers, or even pinned to their socials somehow. And the community is fairly active. I got on the Discord. There's some good interactions amongst the members. Even the team happened to be there. It was quite fun. Interesting, no doubt. But again, we're seeing a lot of these projects suffer from a social perspective because the lack of interest in crypto at the current moment. So we have to understand where we're at in the market in general as well, and critique them based on what everybody in the market is experiencing, not just individual to Prime. Okay, so that's interesting. Now, another thing that I want to be very clear about is this target. This is not a target in the sense that I believe that it's going to go here. I'm going to be clear on this. This is a target based on, a competition, based on market cap. Where could Prime go if everything works out and they, basically, give us everything that we need to get bullish, fundamentally bullish? Where could Prime go? And if you compare it to other gaming projects, the reality is it's one of the major ones out there right now, doing great stuff. If it reaches $1 billion market cap, we're talking about a 3x, more or less 3.3x. That's, in my book, that is an easy target, but it's already at a $300 million market cap over. So that means only 3x for a bull run when we're going to get new capital. The gaming narrative could wake up and do very, very well. Are they only going to do a 3x as more capital enters? I don't think so. I think that it's very viable to see a project like this hit a lot higher. But as soon as we start integrating speculation also in market cap, because I believe that really, if all we go to previous highs regarding market cap, meaning total market cap, $3 trillion, it's only going to do a 3x, I think. If everything goes well. But are we only going to stay at $3 trillion? Or are we going to go to 5, 6, maybe even $7 trillion total market cap? And that's where I think the euphoria, the interest, the FOMO is going to kick in, and then we're going to start to see major runs. And it could be very possible to see Prime hit the $10 billion market cap. I don't see why it can't hit at least a 25, 30x, something like that. But again, we need to see where the market goes. We want to see where the altcoin market goes. We want to see how much total market cap we get, and obviously we want to see Prime continue hustling, giving us all the fundamentals we need to get bullish. I say a very modest target would be right around $70. right? From there, we can reevaluate. Of course, it's not the end game, but if we get to $70, Prime is doing really well. We want to reevaluate to see where the market is at, and then we'll restructure and say, you know what, maybe we're going higher. But for now, my overall vision is if everything goes well, I don't see why we can't hit a $70 target, right? So that's what I'm thinking at the current moment. Obviously, we can reevaluate and so on, but I'm not that type of person that's going to say, oh, we're going to hit this amount, because I do not have a crystal ball to tell you the future. But I can tell you this: based on market, based on competition, I can see a $70 price target very easily. I give it 6 out of 10. And the only reason why I'm giving it a 6 out of 10 is because of the lack of information. Unfortunately, being undoxed is something that leaves a lot of ambiguity. It leaves uncertainty. It leaves fear and doubt. And that's FUD. And the reality is, it's clear that it's the case. I don't know who is involved in the game. I don't know if the tokens are being unlocked, who's behind it, and so on. And of course, we don't need to know absolute personal information, but at least let us know, what experience you have in blockchain tech and gaming tech, or whatever the case is, so that we can be confident in the individuals that are leading the way for the project. Now, we also have to understand that the project is not completely behind the DAO. It's not like the majority of the tokens are behind the DAO. It's only 11%. So the reality is there's a good portion of centralization here, and relying on the team to do the right things. And without being doxxed, leaves a little bit of risk there to an uncertainty about how things are going to be handled. Yes, it's governance, but it's only 11%. And at the end of the day, it's all about the tokens. It's all about the capital. The liquidity there is not completely behind the DAO. So this is what really, really bothers me. And of course, there's no roadmap, and that also bothers me. And that's something that, gives us an area of ambiguity as well. What are we tackling next? Where are we going with things? And then little odds and ends that are also not perfect, accumulate. And I give it a 6 out of 10. Now, it doesn't mean that I'm bearish. It just means look, there's risk. And from a risk to reward scenario, we got to allocate the correct amount of capital so that we don't expose ourselves to that much risk. And that's what I'm here to do. All right, guys, let's get right into some charts. I know you want to talk about price action as well. So we do have a great chart here that we've been looking at in the last little while here for Echelon Prime. Echelon Prime hit a nice bottom, hit the volume gap, as we discussed many times here on the live streams and talking about him on videos and so on, talking about how we came down to a good level to hunt liquidity, and it could be that hunt is over. Let's take a look at this in a little bit more detail, guys. We talked about this horizontal support zone a couple of times, and I made it very clear in the charts. I have all these charts readily available on the Discord, so feel free to join. We do see that we're getting a nice inverse head and shoulder type of structure. We came down for a bottom, made a couple of bottoms, we came down for a head, we came back up, swing failure pattern, came down, confirmation low, higher low. We are seeing that we're trying to break above, and currently as we speak, we're at $9. I did the deep dive a couple of days, the graphic a couple of days ago when we were right around this level, and you can see it's been really climbing up there, and at this point it's looking for a breakout. This is a breakout scenario. So if you happen to get in anywhere around this area, DCA around this green arrow, or anywhere into this weak volume gap, it didn't hit the bottom of the volume gap, and it's no longer a volume gap, to be honest, because we filled it up with volume based on this spike in this node of volume right here, as you can see. So it's not really the weakest. The reality is that we're looking to expand to the upside. There is weakness above. Look at this empty space, which means that if we break above the 200 daily EMA and we break above, let's say $10.87, we get to a zone where there's a lot of weakness. As of now, we still have some levels of resistance. We have the point of control. Okay, we're above the point of control. We have the previous highs. Fine, we're still testing the previous highs. We're trying to work on it and break above. But then the heavyweight, the major concern, the 200 daily EMA. Do we break above it in one go and ignore the confluence with this horizontal again at $10.80? Do we totally forget about that, or are we going to get a rejection there and maybe come down and buy some more bullish bids, get some support as a back test, and then continue? Guys, that is from a risk to reward ratio scenario. That's what you should be thinking, is that every time you start getting into a level where you could get resistance, you have to get defensive. You have to protect your gains. If you got into this area right around $7 where the green arrow is at top of the volume gap. If you happen to DCA it into this zone and get some good entries, guys, right now you're up in a good way. Definitely. Let's say right here in green arrow to where we are up right now, you're up approximately 30%. Those are great gains. Now, it doesn't mean that in the long term you can't hold some, no doubt, but if you can consider yourself a trader, right now you have to understand is getting into a fresh long, there's a lot of risk. You're not getting into a good risk to reward ratio opportunity. Why? Because of the possibility of getting rejected. Now, let me show you what I mean. Let's say that you get into a fresh long right now. You're slowly hitting this level of resistance. It could break above. I'm not saying it can. I'm just saying that there's a good chance that it happens, and you put your stop loss, say modestly. Let's say even here, that's fine, under this low, right? Look at the risk to reward. It's really bad, guys. There's no way to improve this risk to reward at all, right? Unless we get a dip. Now, if we get a dip, you see the difference. We literally have to come down back to here to improve the risk to reward ratio. Now, there's another way to think about it. Now, you can say, you know what? I'm not willing to trade this. I just want to accumulate. Why do I want to accumulate? Because I think that eventually we're going to come all the way back here. That's a viable strategy, no doubt. You're not buying any tops. From a local price action, you're buying the top. You're a breakout trader. We could get rejected at any moment, right? But the reality is if you're preparing your portfolio and you're preparing or you're accumulating for the preparation of getting back to here, let's do a measurement here real quick. Actually, you know what? Let's reuse this and just bring this back to previous highs. That's a 300% pump. Okay, no doubt. So what I'm talking about at this current moment is long-term spot positions are still healthy. And if it does come down, even to the bottom of the range, down all the way down here, right, to test these bottoms, you know, you have to be willing to take it on the chin and say, you know what, I'll DCA all the way down and improve my entry. You buy a little bit now, you're still buying in a good zone. Potentially this thing breaks out and you won't regret it. But if it does come down, you still have to not regret it. And you have to have enough conviction to buy those dips and accumulate as it does come down. And reality is your invalidation is this low. In fact, it could even be this wick. That wick is low volume, as you can see based on the volume profile. It's a low wick, low volume wick, which means that the bodies are more important than the actual wick itself. But nonetheless, if we break below that wick, guys, it's invalidating. The bullishness is invalidating. This becomes a bear flag. As you can see, impulsive move, sideways price action, and then continuation to the downside is still very possible unless we break out and expand to the upside and hit some bullish price targets, maybe about $17. That's another good area to take a bit of profit, trail up a stop loss, maybe take 10% off the top and trail up a stop loss, and then let it run, let it continue running, because at least you have that trailing stop loss or that triggered stop loss to act as a safety net just in case we do get a massive rejection and come right back down. So we have to understand that short term, not the best entries, midterm, still okay, long term, great. There's no issue right here. You're at the bottom of the range trying to create this pivot point structure, suggesting a pivot point to the upside and a change of character once we break above these tops. So it's looking good. Price action wise, momentum has already gotten overbought once. That's my major concern. I do see a trend to the upside with regards to momentum, which is really healthy still. It looks like it wants to get overbought once again. And if it gets overbought once again, it's likely to get overbought in an extreme way, similar to what happened right here. So let's be cognizant of the fact that the majority of the gains come in when we get above the 70% mark on the oscillator, which we're trying to get into at the current moment. And the last time we did that, we went there very, very slightly, and we made a higher low on the back test, and now we're potentially going for a higher high. Do we get enough momentum to actually break out of the resistance like I mentioned before? There's a good chance, but you know, are we willing to take that chance? That's the question. You got to ask yourself, does my risk tolerance actually appreciate that, given that the entry is right now, guys? That's a tough call. Personally speaking, I don't buy tops. I don't buy local tops. I don't buy any tops. I wait for pullbacks unless I'm willing to hold for longer periods of time and just hold spot and be done with it, right? So that's that. Now, if you look at the trend oscillators, looking pretty good. We see the EMA slowly trekking to the bullish control zone, which is the top half of the oscillator. As you can see, we're trending to the upside. Really nice. When we get the expansions to the upside, the purple expansions like this one, you can see that we definitely get some green price action. Are we ready to expand? Are we ready to move? And the area of resistance being right here for a quick, sideways consolidation and then continuation. All very possible, guys. Just understand that this is the area of resistance that I'm worried excited about at the current moment for short-term positions. Okay, so looking pretty good. You know, Prime at the end of the day is one of the projects that has been looking solid as far as gaming goes. Gaming as a narrative itself hasn't been very strong in the last little while. A lot of projects have been retracing, but look at this bottom, nice bottom structure, a pivot point structure, guys. This is where it's at. We're getting divergence right here, as you can see, diverging to the upside, diverging as we're going sideways and slowly moving up. Do we get the follow through? Diverging here while we see momentum shifting up, price action is still going sideways. Do we get the follow through? I think we would, guys. If we see the altcoin season wake up, Prime right now is up approximately 5% for the day, looking pretty good. We're trying to push to the upside, bullish. All right, guys, if I've offered you any value in the video, do the channel a massive favor. Slap the like button. It does really help out with the algorithm. If you want to follow me on the socials, the links are in the description below. Guys, if you have any other deep dives that you want me to cover, if you have any other projects that you're interested in, join the Discord, make the request, and the community will vote on the next deep dive. Guys, see you tonight at 8 p.m. EST, where we talk about crypto news and price action. Take care, have a good one, and don't forget, buy the dip. Thank you.